Welcome to Library Grindhouse, where the only movie ticket you need is your library card. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Leah, and today we'll be discussing the 2006 horror film Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
Word. Now, this is a film that, at best, I'd barely heard of. So when you mentioned loving the movie Behind the Mask, I was like, that wrestling movie? And of course, that's Beyond the Mat, which is, it's one of those things where it did feature a wrestler on the cover wearing a mask. To my credit, at least it had a mask on it. But yeah, not that movie. So when did you first experience the film?
I actually started watching the film in college. I believe it was my sophomore year. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. Actually, a friend of mine showed it to me, and it was something completely different. It actually got me into the horror film genre. Got me dipping my toes into the water, per se.
Let's dive into this thing. So now when the movie starts, we get credits going, which is pretty cool because you get to see that the actor who plays Leslie, whose name I don't think either of us are quite... Bissell? I like to think Bissell. I always try to go fancy, you know. So Nathan gets introducing credit, and we've pretty much never heard of this dude again, like in terms of being in movies or anything like that.
The last I heard, he was a florist in New York. If you're there, Nathan, and you're watching this, please tell us. What are you up to now?
Yeah. Please be in more movies. Someone cast this dude. I mean, he's got charisma. He
was amazing. He is probably out of my top 5 reasons to watch this film, he is number 2. He is a phenomenal actor. I liked his charisma. I liked the way how he was goofy, but he can just pull it off. Emotion. Yeah. Like, he can go from happy to just dude.
Absolutely. No, I mean, he can turn on a dime. And without him working in this film, the movie doesn't work. If he can't pull this off, no one would want to sit through this movie. It'd be interminable.
Absolutely.
Then we get a typical opening with a woman alone being watched outside at night. So the girl seems to get away, or at least so it seems. So it kind of subverts expectations, because usually when a horror film like this opens, you're thinking this girl is going to get it, she's done for, and she gets away. Kind of an interesting way to start the movie. It subverts your expectations right out of the gate, which is good because it kind of gets you in the mindset of just like, oh, this isn't going to be what you're necessarily used to, which is cool. I dig that. And then we get straight up Blair Witch Project vibes because we cut to the documentary film crew taping some footage, and it is basic cable, college student. They really get that verisimilitude of like these folks are kind of super serious. It's kind of lo-fi. I'm digging the vibe. It's kind of working. It's kind of working there. And she does mention that, Jason and Freddie and I guess they say Mike Myers, which not that Mike Myers, but yeah, are considered real in this universe. So as he's being interviewed, also it's fun to look behind him and see things like David Copperfield book on the shelf, a book called Escape Tactics by Houdini.
Absolutely. This film is littered with a bunch of Easter eggs in the background. If you pay attention to their scene setups, there's little things all throughout the movie, and it's great.
Yeah, so that was fun, because it's stuff that, interesting research you wouldn't think about, because like how does Jason just show up? Like, obviously this is like, you see him walking so slowly, like, does he teleport? And it's like, oh, so you have these tricks of like how to like look like you disappeared and whatever.
Yeah, you have sleight of hand,
illusion, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Magic happens, and so it's like, so he says step 1 is you need an anchor for your legend, and that's what this farmhouse is. That's what that kind of represents. He also mentions you have to do a ton of cardio not to get winded and to be able to keep up with the kids.
Yes.
Which is kind of funny there.
Library Grindhouse will be back after these messages.
Jay. Fred. Mike. Really worked hard. Those boys lifted it to a whole other level. There was nobody like them in the early years. Turned themselves into legends.
You have no idea how much cardio I have to do. It's ridiculous. You gotta be able to run like a freaking gazelle without getting winded. Plus, there's that whole thing of making it look like you're walking, and everybody else is running their asses off.
Looks good. All right, let's just see hips. Good. Shake those hips out.
Now back to the library grindhouse.
And then step 2, you got to find a target group, which is apparently harder than it seems, apparently.
It's extremely hard. You have to pay very close attention. You have to hit every single point, just like in every slasher movie. You need to have the jock. You need to have the stoners. You need
Popular
to have
girls.
the popular girls. Then, of course, you need to have the survivor girl, the virgin,
Who might escape.
Yeah, who might
Yeah.
escape, who is able to retell the story in order to perpetuate this fear, in order to pick up where he left off for the next group of kids when he decides to rise again.
Yeah, and I love that he mentions the stoners and burnouts. You got to have some of those to pad the numbers.
Yeah, I thought that was
They don't run fast.
They don't run fast.
It's fantastic.
They don't realize
That's
what's going on as quickly.
really funny. I really like that. That's a nice touch. So basically, there's a girl, Kelly, and he makes it very clear that they are not allowed to interview her because she is the target survivor girl. And then they go on what's called a flyby. And so basically, he knows that Kelly comes out of that door every night and uses a brick to hold the door. So this is the scene we saw earlier in the film. And basically, the crew was involved with everything that went on that night in terms of scaring her. And so he's made them complicit. Yeah, so he has Taylor pull the brick that closes the door that keeps her from being able to get inside.
And I think with them too, it seems innocent enough. You know, it seems like a high school prank. So nothing big can really come from just pulling a brick out and scaring a girl, right?
Right, it still feels kind of playful and like,
Yeah.
oh, this is kind of a fun little game. Like, this isn't actually like murders are going to happen or anything like
innocent
that.
enough.
So they're super psyched. I forgot
Yep,
afterwards.
so then
all,
he runs and he's so excited
they're
because it
all
worked out.
amped up. Okay, yeah.
All right, that is it. Give me a pound. Give me a little bow. Let's bow it. That needs a pound. Pound it. Bow it. All right.
You guys
And
done?
you get hugs.
Okay.
Huggy. All right.
Okay.
Let's get in.
All
Go.
right.
Pound it, bow it, you get hugs. And then they go visit Eugene and Jamie, who are two of his best friends, and they are fascinating. So Eugene's like an old pro who taught Leslie, so a bridge kind of from the past to the future. And they find Eugene in a sensory deprivation tank that's been buried underground for how long?
I think he said going on 3 days. Is
I
that
thought
what
it
he
was
said?
a few days. Like, that's craziness. And so basically, he can slow his heart rate down to look dead by doing this. And it also helps control his bodily functions. So obviously, you know,
That way
at
you're
the end
not-
of every killer, you know, serial killer or like slasher killer end, they all look dead. And
Yes, but
they're
they
not
somehow
dead.
rise again.
Exactly.
Which I actually find funny because he's supposed to be retired.
That's the other thing.
So
yeah.
It makes it
Why
seem
does he
like-
do that if he's retired? Yeah.
It makes it seem like, you know, once you're in this lifestyle, you're always going to be in this lifestyle.
So now Eugene goes over the old days. So in the late 60s and 70s were all about quantity. So how many people and places could you devastate or whatever? You had less prep. But then Jason, Freddy, and Michael changed the game by returning to the same place over and over like a curse. Because before it was like, you know, you go on sprees in different locations. But then again, Jason did go to Manhattan and outer space. So
Yeah, but, I mean, did he really?
It's all right. We just overshot it. We'll turn around and go back. Guys, it's okay. He just wanted his machete back.
So you have to have an evil for good to fight against is kind of how they see it. And then they bring up the red herring, right? And they're going to do it at the library, maybe take out the librarian because it's safer than taking out one of her friends.
Yeah.
It's kind of not necessarily directly related, but it's still something that might
it's-
shock her.
And it's still somebody who she sees. She sees
Right.
on a regular basis. I mean, it's the librarian, which
Sure.
you should see on a regular basis. That entire scene in the library, I mean, obviously, I work in a library, so
What?
I'm
I
gonna-
work in a library,
I work
Leah?
in a library.
That's crazy.
But I love that entire scene. I love seeing Leslie doing his acrobats, moving really fast. The camera work is amazing too because you'll just see him. You know, they'll have the shot set up and you just see little bits of him jumping around, trying to get there.
Getting his parkour on.
Yeah,
you
getting
know.
his part-
He got that cardio. He's got that cardio game down. I mean, you get to see it here. This is kind of the first thing where you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's fast.
Yeah, he's got some moves.
Yeah, and this is also where I noticed this is the first time where it's not strictly documentary style.
Exactly. So this is where you actually get to see some cinematic, different types of movement or views.
Because before it could be kind of like a found footage film to a degree, except for
Exactly.
the opening scene it was largely like this is what they've recorded.
And my personal take on that is I feel like whenever you have the change in camera, basically, I think what they're trying to do is this is what you would see in a slasher film. So whenever you hear the music playing and Leslie standing up and getting into slasher mode, I feel like the reason why they do that is because this is what you would see in a typical slasher film.
And so he swapped microfilm with the fake one, and then the rest with the rest of the fake article implicating her family. So he's getting her to kind of dive in deeper. And so the plan is to kill the librarian after she offers Kelly comfort and then chase Kelly around. However, someone is pulling up in front of the library.
And you bring out Jesse's all-time favorite character.
But not yet, because next, it's Tangina! We get Zelda Rubinstein.
This house is clean.
And it's not microfiche, it's microfilm.
What's this?
Old newspaper articles are kept on microfiche.
But something like this might still be on microfiche.
Microfiche is a sheet of plastic. Microfilm is film. They're using film. It's a roll, okay?
Side note, when we first watched this, when I told Jesse that he had to watch this, he told me that he wanted to rate the movie less than it was just for that
One
reason
star!
alone.
One star! I mean, it's microfilm, people. Oh my gosh, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. You filmed in a library. You got permission to film in a library. You could ask somebody. Anyway, yeah, so the librarian plays right into the legend. I'm not entirely sure how that worked, but anyway. So then Kelly screams for an hour and a half, and Tangina passes out. And then Freddie shows up, calling out for Leslie.
You have nothing to worry about.
Leslie!
No more. It ends here.
Yes, Robert Englund.
Wonderful.
And we have an Ahab.
We have an Ahab.
We got an Ahab!
Wow, we got an Ahab! What's an Ahab?
It's a guy. It's a guy like the guy back there. Get in. We got to tell Eugene.
Oh, he shot you?
Yeah, right in the shoulder.
That's your first one. Does it hurt?
Oh no, it feels all right. I was wearing a vest.
Yes, Robert Englund, plays basically Doc Halloran, a psychologist who treated Leslie as a kid, right? And then, so basically, the Ahab's a reflection of everything that's good in humanity and will defend it at great personal cost.
And this clip was brought to you by Moby Dick by Charles Dickens. I'm just kidding.
Right? But yeah, so Eugene and his wife are very proud of Leslie because having an Ahab's a big deal. Like, that's like a next level. Not every slasher killer gets an Ahab.
So, can we give our audience some examples of an Ahab from other movies? That way they know what an Ahab really is.
Donald Pleasance in the Halloween films.
There you go.
As the psychologist who treats Michael Myers.
There you go.
Yeah.
So the Ahab, which they do explain pretty well in the film, but an Ahab is pretty much the person that is trying to stop the slasher for a reason, meaning he is a psychologist. He has been trying to treat him before. He knows what he is going to do.
And knows how evil he is. Yes.
And he is not part of the law. He is literally like Batman.
Usually
he isn't a vigilante.
There's no reason for a psychiatrist to be going around with a gun trying to take out his patient, other than this. He has no jurisdiction with all this. So the camera crew does go to talk to Kelly, but the doctor is there. And basically the doc tells him that Leslie's not who he says he is, that his name is Leslie Mancuso from Reno, Nevada. They decide not to speak to Kelly, but then the doc tells him to expect to see more of me. Then Leslie confronts, what's her face?
Taylor.
Yeah, and that's pretty brutal.
Yeah, it is. He kind of shows his mean streak. Before this, you've seen Leslie, and he seems pretty bubbly. He seems like a happy-go-lucky type of guy who just happens to be a slasher serial killer. My type of dude. But actually...
In the making, potentially.
In the making, yeah. But you see him once he cuts off. This is his business. This is his job. And Taylor and her crew tried to interfere with that. They tried to talk to Kelly. They tried to see what was going on and get an interview with her before the slasher, before she was the final girl. So this causes a lot of problems to Leslie because they could have thrown this whole thing off all of the work that he has done, all the preparation he has done to find the perfect group with the jocks, with the deadbeats, with everyone, they could have ruined it all. So you see him kind of take off his happy-go-lucky, put on his slasher face, not really a slasher face, but his mean face, and really get into her.
He choke slams her.
You are going to be,
I mean,
you are going to ruin everything that I have prepared for, that you have helped me for. And now, is this when he actually says, like, you are directly involved? You pulled the brick. Like, you...
I'm not sure if he did there or not.
Okay.
But I've shown you pearls!
Yeah.
Things no one has ever seen!
I've shown you pearls!
Such good stuff. Yeah, and so now they have to decide whether to stay or go in terms of this camera crew.
When it comes to the final act,
Yeah,
to
get into the farmhouse, because now this is the end game.
Of every slasher film.
Exactly. So another tip, they want to have limited time inside.
No, that he does want to limit time inside, that he will be inside, because he can get trapped in there. There's multiple ways to get trapped in there. So that's why he wants to be outside in the barn, be able to move around as much as possible.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, so you do want limited time inside. So that's one tip that he shares with them.
While they're there. So that's why he goes there in preparation.
Because you have
he
limited
does
mobility.
Everything inside the house.
And too much takes some time to play hide and seek.
Mm-hmm.
And then he mentions the closet being a sacred space, symbolic of the womb.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of high school, college philosophizing in this film. I mean, it's not. I like that they're putting thought into it. It's good. It's a little cheese ball ish, but you know,
you have to have that factor.
They're trying.
Yes.
They're trying. I give them credit for trying.
At least they tried to explain.
Oh no,
meaning.
it's
Leslie's meaning also, you know.
Yeah, no, it is. It's true. Nobody gets away, a big rule. So otherwise, it's a complete breakdown of everything and really embarrassing. I love this. It's really embarrassing. That's really funny. So as soon as possible, he wants to whittle it down to Kelly, and only Kelly's allowed to enter the shed, which again is similar to the closet, a sacred space. And so Kelly entering the shed is the first step from going victim to hero, which is what he's shooting for. So she's going to have to take on the bad guy with a phallic object, and then look at the great line.
She'll be taking my manhood and empowering herself with it.
So you're pro-life and you're a chauvinist.
Just fantastic. I mean, some of the writing in this film is pretty tremendous on both ends of the spectrum. So he sabotaged all the obvious weapons in the shed. He nailed lower windows shut, so they'd have to go and cut larger tree branches and pre-cut smaller branches, so when they try to get out the windows on the upper floor, that could injure them and slow them down. He doesn't see it as cheating since he is outnumbered. He does point that out, which again is pretty funny.
Which is true. I mean...
Yeah. But I mean,
But he also sets them up, you know.
He sets them up, and he has the murder weapon, and they have nothing.
True.
So because they have no reason to expect anything. Anyway, but yeah. So then he mentions the orchards like the birth canal. So how do you survive an encounter with Leslie and other slasher killers? Don't hang out with a virgin. Run like a and then don't stop until the sun comes up. Don't try to hide; they will find you. Don't try to be a hero and fight them; you'll lose. Run straight and never look back, and then stick together. Just make sure someone is slower than you is behind you.
Someone slower than me. Just reminds me, take him! And just run.
Yep.
You were too slow.
Yep.
This is actually one of my favorite scenes as well. I know that I've said that before, but I love the scene before, it's almost the calm before the storm.
Okay.
After Leslie has already set up everything in the house, he goes and you see him like skipping rocks on the water. Mm. He's putting his
the
Vaseline,
it's preparation H type formula.
The preparation H formula on him, and you see him and Taylor sitting down and he's talking, and he actually gets really serious. Like he has to do this. It's either you live or you die. It's one or the other. Either he's going to be walking out of there, or else he's going to be wheeled out of there or carried out of there, what have you. I forget his exact wording. But I love that scene because you have to imagine every slasher thinking this, if they have that mode of thought, being like, okay, this is it. As you said, this is end game. Like, either I'm going to do this, or else I'm going to be dead.
Yeah,
it's kind of it's a dark way to look into it, but he's been preparing for this. It's like it's fourth quarter.
Well, I mean, when you're getting out
ready
there
to
and,
go.
and there's like, some kind of physical violence involved, I mean, I'm sure like if you're a soldier and you got to go into a house to clear something out or something like that, or you're in a situation like that, you got to like psych yourself up to be like, okay, let's go.
So he's psyching himself up, but at the same time, he's been
It's life or
preparing for
death,
this.
but-
So you feel like he would mentally be psyching himself up as he's preparing for.
But
to
you got to
do
get that
this
adrenaline up
thing.
right before it though, otherwise it's going to run out.
Exactly.
Like, you gotta,
But I think it's fun. I find it funny that he's like skipping rocks. He's like doing meditation before a big game. It's one of those things where
well,
he's
no,
like,
I think that's what you need to
being
do. But then,
zen.
because he needs to keep his heart rate down because he's going to be
utilizing that
gotta
cardio.
save that cardio. Yeah, that's right. But what's cool with the preparation type formula, it's what boxers use to constrict blood vessels, and it slows bleeding and eye bulging if you get hit. And then also it has fire retardants added in as well, and all this comes back. It's like it's one of those things where I appreciate it's one's like what's it? Chekhov's gun. It's like
Yeah.
it's gonna come back on
it's
that.
gonna come back.
That's
Which
right.
it took me actually a few times watching through it to be like,
oh, right.
Yep, you'll have those if you watch this over and over again, which I strongly suggest you do because I find something new with this film every single time I watch it. It's full, like we said, it's
It is
full
one of those
Easter
films
eggs.
rewarded. Yeah, repeat viewings are definitely rewarded on this one. Yeah, he's not concerned about Doc since it's not about him. He loves the idea of what Kelly will find within herself, which is just, it's so weird how much about this one girl it is, and just, it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of crazy that this is about like a rebirth for this girl. Like it's not even about like killing all these other people. It's like trying to elevate this girl into something more than what she is.
And Leslie speaks about her as if he loves her.
Right.
He's talking about it like he wants the best for this girl who he's going to just torment and brutalize and kill all of her friends. But he loves her. It's to make her a stronger, better woman.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to start off as a fragile girl and then go through the birth canal and become this strong survivor woman. So it's actually
Exactly.
pretty poetic, but it's weird coming from the slasher.
Right. Yeah. It's
So-
like, did Jess Kelly what she wants?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Did you what?
I mean, is this what Kelly wants or needs? Yeah. So he removes spark plug from the vehicles because he doesn't feel like getting run over tonight. Another nice thought there. And then we get they decide they're all in and they're there, and then the killing starts, and they realize that this is actually for real. You don't actually see the first kill, but you hear it.
Yes.
And it's like, man, the sound guy really went nuts on a watermelon on the microphone. Like it is some
Yes.
splooshy, just gory sounding audio. Like it's pretty well done. It's like, wow, what did he do to those people?
Exactly.
Which again, like for a slasher film, this is surprisingly bloodless.
It is.
Is the first thing I noticed was like,
That is true.
and that's not what it is about. I mean, it makes it very clear that it's not about
Which
the.
I think helped me with it being like I said in the very beginning, with me dipping the toe in the water of sort of the horror slasher genre. With this, it wasn't too gory, so it wasn't like you had to cringe and turn your head. Like you know what I mean? Everyone does that in a horror film when it gets super gory.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And then you rewind it and then you watch it through afterwards. But
Yeah.
there isn't a lot of gore in this, but it's still.
So if that's something that would appeal to you,
Yeah.
definitely, it's got that going for it. There's just the audio, which is, again, it's more effective in some ways than to just straight up show it, especially if you don't have the money to have good makeup effects.
Exactly, and also your imagination does far worse than it could ever do when you see something, which I think plays into a factor with Taylor and the film crew. So they're hearing it and they're just like,
Right.
he is actually, because they saw the librarian be killed, but it was literally just a shh, and that was it. There wasn't any.
Did she? I don't know if
I
she
don't know
got
if
killed.
they saw it. I don't know.
I feel like she
either.
just had a heart attack.
I don't know. I thought that she died, but they weren't so, because it wasn't as violent and brutal. But then when they hear it, and like you said, it is, he's doing something awful to them.
Right.
And I think that's when they're starting to be like, oh, people are dying now. Like people are actually dying.
Yeah, it's for real. And side note, did the librarian die by the scythe or have a heart attack? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Library Grindhouse will be back after these messages.
I found my parents' engagement announcement. It was the cutest thing ever. Thank you, ViewScan.
I had a bet riding with my brother-in-law. He always said that he won a battle of the bands back in 1985. He's known to lie, so I put some money on it. Thanks to ViewScan, I had $20. Thanks, ViewScan.
To be honest, my spouse and I were shocked that we could find a house in the current market, and at such an affordable price. Then we heard the rumors. Well, after a little research, the ViewScan showed us that we are the proud owners of the site of a triple homicide involving a satanic cult. The article and accompanying photo are framed on our wall. Thanks, ViewScan.
I discovered that I was a serial killer in a past life. The ViewScan allowed me to easily clip and save the article to post to social media so that my enemies will fear me. Thank you, ViewScan.
And now back to the library Grindhouse.
So the camera person asked Taylor if he should be getting any of the footage of the dead teenagers, and she is not sure. So then Leslie takes them outside because Taylor has a look. We can't let this happen look that she might be thinking about interfering.
Leslie's saying that they need to leave. He's starting to get angry that they're going to interfere with his entire operation because she has this look. She's heard the first people being killed, and now she's starting the angel on her shoulder is starting to be like, hey, you shouldn't have done this.
Yeah, we can't just let this happen. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's when
well, then the camera crew's like, yeah, isn't that what he said you were going to say as far as like the whole, we can't just stand there and let this happen. So yeah, so now we switch to the third person perspective, which is, as you said, what you now see commonly in a horror film, a slasher film, and not just the found footage, which makes sense because in every found footage films, it's like, why are you still shooting this? It actually gets around that found footage problem of, why is the camera still on? Why are you still pointing it? Why are you still framing shots?
Who's the camera guy running around?
I know. It's like, wow, look at all this stuff. I'm so scared.
That'd be a pretty good movie though. Camera guy being in on it with the slasher.
Had to have been done.
I don't know. Has it been done? Let us know.
Let us know in the comments. So he changed the plan. They find out very quickly that he changed the plan to accommodate for the extra people. He moved the bodies from upstairs, and then the stoners head out to the shed. He hands one of them their beating heart with post hole digger, which has to be like the best kill in the movie.
That is the best kill. That is the best kill of the movie.
I mean, it's one of the most traditional, and it's the goriest thing in the movie. And it's not really that.
It's not even that gory. Yeah, you don't really see a lot of blood.
Brutal.
You see the action.
It's more kind of silly, if anything, if such a thing can be silly. But anyway, in this movie, yes. So then Taylor realizes that no one else matters. That he found her before she even shot a frame. Let's see. She accidentally knocks Doc out with a shovel because Doc shows up.
So funny.
And Taylor plays right into Leslie's hands, and then she gets him into that final shed and ends things in the cider press like Leslie predicted earlier. And she dumps gasoline everywhere, not realizing this plays right into his hands as well.
Exactly. He had that preparation H
with the fire retardant in it, right? And Doc says he's just a man. But then over the credits, Leslie's body is brought to the morgue where he gets up over security video. All that training and prep paid off.
Paid off. So he walked out. Well, he didn't walk. He was wheeled, but then he walked out of there.
He was carried out, but he then walked out of the morgue. Yes. So it's,
Question for everyone. So did he accommodate Taylor, or did he already pre-accommodate Taylor beforehand? When he was setting up the house, did he already have into fact that he knew that she was going to switch?
Or did he have both scenarios?
Or did he have both
scenarios?
Exactly.
But then again, he knew Kelly was not the virginal
That is
girl.
True. That is true. So in my mind, I always thought, Taylor was always the one from day one because he allowed this documentary footage to be filmed of him, which you would think would be a big no-no. Like, who wants to sit in class and be like, hey, this is how slashers do it?
But I mean, he's not going to be like a 9-to-5er. He wants to be the slasher killer. So why does he care that his face is everywhere associated with this now?
But he spilled all of his tips. He spilled all of his tips and tricks.
Yeah, but in the moment, no one's gonna know that.
That is true. I guess you have adrenaline pumping through you and you're ready to go. But I wonder what would happen though if Taylor was like, okay, I'm fine with it. What would have happened if she didn't have that angel on her shoulder and she was just like,
well,
I'm for it.
But I think he kind of knew enough about her. He studied enough about her to kind of know that this is going to be the type of girl who was going to turn into the girl that he was hoping to make.
That's true, because you do find out she is a virgin. She is the virgin girl. So I guess he knew that thus far. But I always thought that was kind of funny.
That was kind of a funny twist when she walks in on Kelly and it's like, oh, okay, well, that's not,
disclaimer.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Just a little.
that's pretty funny. But it's one of those things where, I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing. I mean, but then again, it's one of those things where it's like Eugene and Jamie, right? Was that the name?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, but their story, like, that's one of those things we didn't really touch on earlier, where it's like in the story where it's like, they ask how they both met, and how do they explain the story?
So Jamie was saying, this is not word for word, but she pretty much said, well, I thought I could, or I just couldn't get away.
Oh yeah.
I was fast, wasn't I, Eugene?
You sure were. But you caught me, didn't you?
I did.
Like, so essentially she was one of the people, like either she was a final girl or she was a part of the group, and she just attached to him as a serial killer. So she knows, Eugene's wife knows about his past because she was a part of it, and she fell in love with him.
Yeah, and so if Eugene groomed her the way it is a final girl, or not final girl, sorry,
Exactly.
a survivor girl, like Leslie has groomed Taylor, and then he's acting, since Leslie's acting like he is kind of in love with this survivor girl, then it stands to reason that possibly in,
Maybe that's
Behind the Mask 2, that's the one where they actually like fall in love or something.
I was going to say, maybe that's what all slashers want. Maybe this is the way how they think they find love. They want to turn their girl into a woman, into a survivor woman to be with. Messed up, but
Find an app, dude.
Find an app. There are weirder things, like maybe that's
swipe
what he wants.
right, swipe left, whatever. It's like you don't have to slash right, slash left. I mean, I guess that would be an app of some kind, but
Well, yeah.
That wouldn't get into any app store protocols that I know of, but anyway.
But if Eugene was his mentor, what if that was it? What if he's thinking that's how he can find love?
I'd love to find love. All right, let's go this. Seemed to work for him.
Yeah, exactly. Let's find the perfect girl for me.
Yeah.
By killing all of her friends to make her fully mine. Talk about.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Call Ahab back.
Not recommended.
No,
not recommended at all. Well, all right.
Different take on it, for sure. This is probably one of my top 5 or 10 favorite slasher movies, personally. I don't know if it's because of nostalgia, because it was like one of my first, when you have your first.
Yeah, I guess it might be in my top 10 just because it's interesting. I don't know if, I think it's kind of those things where we'd just like ride at number 9 and other things would kind of move around it. I've seen so many other horror movies that I think I enjoy more, but I like the cut of its jib. I like what it's trying to go for, and I have to give it props for doing a lot with very little money.
Yeah, I like the original. I think the script, which you touched on too, I think the script was very well written, and they knew what it was.
Yeah, it's elementary school philosophy. However, I do appreciate that they're trying to go for something that's different and not just like, look at us slaughtering all these people. Like, they're actually trying to tell a story and how a story or a legend gets born. Like, I think that's kind of interesting too, that it's not just about a survivor goal, but it's also about creating a legend. And I think that's kind of cool, and not every slasher movie tries it all, let alone tries that hard. So even though, it's kind of, baby's first philosophy thing, it's okay.
Exactly.
It's okay. I'm not mad at it.
And this is in 2006 when it was released. So
it
was before a lot of like the new original
post-Scream, pre-Cabin in the Woods and
Exactly.
Zombieland. Like, it kind of hit that right in between ground. Possibly look for a bonus video on my thoughts on that part. But anyway, it kind of was like in kind of a dead zone where like self-aware horror films were not the vibe at the time. And I think now is a perfect time to rediscover it and enjoy it, and then go on to read maybe something like the Final Girl Support Group that came out recently, and
which both of us have read, and we
recommends.
Absolutely.
It's a solid read. And basically, and there's all sorts of other Final Girl ones. What's the other one?
There's the
Final Girls by Riley Seeger.
There's the Final Girls by Riley Seeger. There's the Last Final Girl by Stephen Graham Jones.
Oh, right,
and the Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. So if you enjoyed this, check out all of those.
Yeah,
too.
go for it. Absolutely. Yeah, any of those you'd probably find have a good time reading either audiobook or ebook or print book, whatever we have. And I'll try to provide links for that. Well, those are our thoughts on Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. And here's your clue about our next episode.
Clucifer here. Your clue for the next film is The Shape.
If you think you know what we're watching next, let us know in the comments, along with whether you think Leslie killed the librarian or if she just fainted or had a heart attack.
And For the Library Grindhouse, I'm Leah.
And I'm Jesse.
And I'm gonna go try and find Paradise Lost in the library.
Paradise Lost? Found it.
Bye.
See ya.